What is attachment theory? Like, how would you define it to somebody that has maybe never heard of it before?
Frank, have you ever met somebody that just could not ease into trusting other people? When they talked to other people, they either thought that everyone was out to get them, or they felt like they themselves were inferior to everybody else, so they had to play an endless game. Have you seen someone do this before?
Not only have I seen it, but I think I lived it for probably the first 35 years of my life.
You're not alone. The research on this is funny. So baby boomers had about a 35% rate of them getting attachment wrong, where they had attachment issues. Millennials, Gen Y, Gen Z had about, Gen X rather, had a 50% rate of getting attachment issues where they had insecure attachment. And Gen Z today shows 65% have insecure attachment. So this is getting worse and worse and worse. So have you noticed that people in younger generations seem more insecure, more prone to emotional dysregulation, more inferiority complexes, but also more pushing back on other people, more hostile, more incapable of working together? Have you noticed this?
100%. I not just noticed it, but I think there's plenty of data and research that supports all of that.
That is attachment theory. Attachment theory says, why on earth are people losing the ability to connect with other human beings? Where are they going wrong? Okay. And attachment theory, done by John Bowlby back in the 1950s, says that attachment theory, according to him, draws from your first breath of life. Okay, your baby is born. They put you on mom. You hold on to mom, skin to skin contact. You feel so safe and warm. Mom holds you. Mom feeds you. Mom takes care of you. And then for the next couple of years, mom plays with you, talks to you, grows with you, helps you understand, teaches you that she will work with you on solving problems. Dad comes in. Dad starts teaching you that he's going to work with you when you are scared, that when you don't understand, Dad will help you and will guide you. He will mentor you. And then when you're a little kid and you have disagreements with parents, or you want something, or you try to figure out how the world works, they work with you. They don't enable you. They don't baby you and be permissive parents and try to be your best friend and be approval seeking. They also don't scream at you. They don't yell at you. They don't abandon you. They don't neglect you. You collaborate with your parents, and life becomes a collaboration to solve problems. Maybe you've met somebody that acts this way. Have you had a chance to meet somebody who collaborates like that openly with other people?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I have good people in my life. Absolutely.
Good. That's wonderful. You have a 50% of the good population of people that are not just good, but secure, calm, collaborative. They learned in childhood that they can work with other people to make problems easier, to solve problems, to get better, right? They've learned that. That's why they behave that way. That's secure attachment. It's training from childhood. So you asked me, what is attachment theory? Attachment theory for the rest of us says that because our caregivers didn't give us what we needed, because they made us fight for anything, for resources, survival, because they made us feel like we didn't deserve those things, because they acted arbitrary or hurtful, because everything was scary to us and we had to learn to survive on our own, we can break. And the way that we break is in attachment, is the way we connect with other people. We stop collaborating. We don't even believe collaboration is possible. Either we go avoidantly attached. That's one style. Avoidantly attached says I'm a lone wolf. I'm a survivor. It's just me against the world. Nobody's coming to save me. It's pointless to even have emotions. I'm just going to drive towards success relentlessly, or I'm going to die. So I'm just going to make it work. Me against the world forever. That's avoidant attachment style. And the research shows it's primarily men who have that one. So if guys out there listening right now, if you're like, yeah, man, that's me, and that is how the world works, it's not a problem. Don't diagnose me. No, I'm not diagnosing, but it's a survival mechanism that can click on in a human brain to become avoidantly attached. Now, there's also the other way that we can break, anxious attachment style, which says something's wrong with me. I'm inferior. Everybody growing up saw it. That's why they treated me the way that they did. I have to earn approval from other people. I can't ask for what I want. I have to do 10 nice things, and maybe they'll pity me enough to give something to me so that I can get what I need. This is what's called nice guy syndrome. Dr. Robert Glover, he's a mentor of mine. He talks about nice guy syndrome in his book, No More Mr. Nice Guy. And that is anxious attachment style. Fewer men have that one. Most of the men who break have avoidant attachment style. And there's so many things that go hand in hand with avoidant attachment style that we could talk about here today. But pause for a moment. Frank, is this resonating with you? Are you seeing guys like this out here in the world? I know that you coach. I know that you work with men.
Yeah, 100%. And, I'm glad you brought up Dr. Glover and one more, no more Mr. Nice Guy, not one more nice guy. We had Robert on the show a few years back, and I think it's probably time for us to reconnect with him because our audience has definitely grown. But that is a book I recommend to every young man that comes into any of our programs. So I think the shocking thing for me, Adam, here is when you share these statistics, 65% of Gen Z, 50% or more of the millennials, or maybe that other generation, but 35% of boomers. What other factors other than the parents and upbringing? Because I think one thought is, right, okay, that makes sense, right? 44%, if you go back to like the 40s, 4% of children were born into a single parent household. And today I think the number is somewhere over 40%. And we've obviously seen the shattering of the nuclear family. We can talk about the fact that people are attached to their phones, probably makes it unable for them to attach to their children. I think that there's a lot of factors that would drive that. But I think that number 35% is shocking to me with the boomers. So what are some of these other factors that play into the development of our attachment style?
Man, the breaking of the nuclear family, the smartphones, all these are window dressing on the Titanic, man. The boat was already going down. So let me take you down this little rabbit hole. I've been studying attachment theory for over 15 years now. Let me take you down this rabbit hole. About 100 years ago, okay, let's say 1914, just prior to World War I outbreak. Okay, most Americans especially lived in rural areas. Now, this doesn't mean that rural areas are magically safe and wonderful and they keep you happy, but what it does mean is that most people were born and raised about 15 miles from the place they were born. They'd live their whole life and die about 15 miles from where they were born. There wasn't a lot of travel. So what that means is you have something called kith and kin networks. All the family and friends of family and family, everything connected to it, everybody that your family has ever known for generations all around you. You had your religious community was a massive support network for you as well. You had aunts and uncles and cousins and grandmas and everybody spread throughout. So if your parents didn't come through for you, you had a safety net of this expanded family network. You had all the other people in your village and your network and your tribe and your community and your everything tied in together. So you had 5 safety networks in case something went wrong with one and you didn't learn to collaborate and connect with other people. You would connect with the next net or the next safety net or the next safety net, and eventually people would catch you. The famous author J.R.R. Tolkien was raised by a Catholic priest because his family networks fell so far. Okay, now you can look back 100 years ago and we had those things. Then we had World War I, massive meat grinder, where not only did millions and millions and millions of men die, but the ones who came home were fundamentally changed and broken. They had the 1,000-yard stare before we talked about PTSD. Right? They had shell shock, where you would watch the guy next to you be liquefied by artillery shells that would explode into hundreds of pieces of shrapnel. And your best friend from growing up would become a cloud of red mist. They had just devastating impacts through World War I. It was phenomenal and horrific. And those men came home changed. They turned into what's called the lost generation. This is where we get Steinbeck. This is we get all the really depressed Hemingway, depressing American authors and things was from this generation, but not just America, Europe as well, right? The devastation of a generation of men, which then turned into massive decadence of the new generation growing up into the roaring 20s, which then collapsed into the Dust Bowl, the Great Depression, financial devastation. You look at the financial devastation through all of Europe at this time. And then you look at the rise of World War II. You see the greatest generation go back into war, another meat grinder, another generation of men destroyed, obliterated. You see women stepping into these roles because now masculinity dies. Masculinity in the West almost dies at this point, and women have to become the guardians of the household, and they shift into a masculine role to protect because men are gone. Men come home. If they do, they barely come home. They're checked out. They're existing. They're surviving. They're going day to day. We lose most of our parenting skills in this area right here. So parenting skills become survival skills. You get put into through the teens, the 20s, the 30s, the Industrial Revolution. Parents are working 100 hours a week. People don't realize that 180 to 100-hour work week was normal in that 100 years ago before Ford came along and started the 40-hour work week and was sued by people like the Dodge Company. and said it's unsustainable for us for you to give your workers incentives and give them 40 hours a week with the same amount of pay. We demand that you put that pay back into the shareholders and keep people making your people work 80 to 100 hours a week. Absolute obliteration of the family at this point. You lose your most Americans have to move from the cities, the rural areas into the cities at this point, from the Great Depression, the Dust Bowl, everything. So now you have a massive population, not just moving into cities, not cities equal bad, but they lose their kith and kin networks. They lose all those networks. They're separated from the land where they've grown up. There's no more generational connection to where they've been, so they lose all the networks. We have the shift away from religious faith, which obliterates the religious connections, right? So now you've lost your expanded family network. You've lost your kith and kin network. You've lost your village network. You've lost your tribal identity. You've lost all of your religious connection. All you have left is the nuclear family. But by the time the boomers come along, the silent generation, the greatest generation, have no parenting skills. They have survival skills. So some of the boomers took those harsh parenting methods and said, I get it. My parents love me. I'm going to keep trying and we're going to keep driving. But a lot of boomers did not and said, screw you. If you hate me, then I hate you worse. They jumped in their mobile sex wagons, the cars, and they went around having sex with as many people as they could. They got into shotgun marriages. Their first round of marriages were a disaster. They had Gen Y and Gen X, and Gen Y and Gen X were raised to believe in family values that now didn't exist anymore. They were just standing there like deer in the headlights, raised for a world that no longer exists. The baby boomers broke up. First round of marriage said marriage isn't enough, love isn't enough. Sometimes love just doesn't work. There's a message that devastated a whole generation. Sometimes love just isn't enough. Who cares? We'll just move on. They move on into their second round of marriages. They're currently tripling the divorce rates, even in their 70s and 80s, by the way. But they move into their second round of marriages, have the millennial generation, and they say, I'm going to raise my kids to be tough. They won't be weak like my first batch of kids. And the second batch of kids hate the baby boomers. So you have the war between millennials and baby boomers. Millennials have never really seen a functioning family unit. Many of them are from second marriages now, or they are part of the early wave leading into a second marriage. Many of them are used to affairs. They're used to families being devastated. They were raised by moms that said, don't ever trust men. Men will betray and abandon you. They're raised by men that say, your mom was X, Y, and Z. Women are disgusting. Just go have fun while you can. Only trust your job. And these people have all been raised to trust corporations to take care of them. Okay. Fast forward, the millennials are now the most likely generation to want to have kids and the least likely generation to have kids. But for those that manage to have children, they have Gen Z, who has been raised in the rubble of a society. But the research is showing that the attachment issues are getting worse, right? And they are not understanding what family values even are. They've never seen a functioning family system. They've never seen any of the 5 safety nets at all, including a nuclear family. It's an abnormality if a set of parents is actually married and still together, and they assume something is secretly evil going beyond the scenes that has kept them together. Otherwise, that wife would have left long ago. Why would a couple stay together? This is strange. It must be some sort of weird voodoo curse on that family that they've stayed together. It's an abnormality now. So you see that, and they are raised in the rubble of that society. This is what's going on. Now we have Generation Alpha, born after Gen Z, the youngest ones. They're being raised by tablets. They don't even have functioning family systems. The generations above them are looking at them going, good luck. I hope you manage to survive. And everybody has checked out into dopamine binging. This is the society that we're living in. So when you ask me about attachment issues, how are we functioning? Man, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible.